Okay, guys, so thank you so much for joining me for this masterclass. Tonight's class is called Mastering the Inner Game of Making More Money. So this is fast becoming one of my favorite subjects to talk about. And many of you know me, many of you have been in my program, so you know that I can talk. And that I get very passionate and I can go off in all different directions. So what I've created is a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to flick over and put on in a second, just really to keep me on track, and also for those of you who are visual learners, you get to see some print and pictures as well. So all I'm just going to ask is that you honour yourself for the next hour or so, and me, by just ensuring that you're fully focused on what we're going to be talking about tonight. It's going to be a lot of information that I'll be sharing with you, a lot of good stuff. So if you could just close down your notifications for the hour, just shut down Facebook, shut down your email, it will all still be there when we come out of this. So if you could do that, and also just make sure you've got a drink, grab paper and pen so that you can take notes throughout. There is a PDF, a workbook that goes with this, and so that will include all of the strategies, and you can print that off after the masterclass, but it will be underneath this lesson. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share the screen and get into the masterclass. And just go back a couple of pages. All right, so mastering the inner game of money. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is looking at bottom line strategies, tangible strategies to increase your bottom line. So wherever you're starting from right now, whether your next income goal is the 3K month or the 5K month, or even looking at 10K and beyond, we're going to be looking at how you can increase that bottom line, how you can increase your income coming in every month. We're also going to look at how you can confidently charge more. And by more, I'm talking about charging what it is you want to be paid, as opposed to what you think people will pay. And when you can do that confidently, you're more likely to attract those premium clients in. And we're also going to be looking at how to calm that monkey mind. So, you know, those moments where you look at your bank statements, you look at your credit card statements, or a client cancels, or whatever it is that can set you down that rabbit hole of money worries, and you know, it just kind of perpetuates your situation. We're really going to be looking at how you can calm that down and do so, and start to kind of embed this new sense of calm and peace of mind as a state of being, as opposed to having to control your thinking. So what I want to say as well is relax, because, you know, a lot of the principles that I'll be sharing with you are important. They are a must in order for you to be able to confidently go out there and increase your bottom line, increase your income. And I know that a lot of people, and especially I know some of you have messaged me about this workshop, you're worried that, oh, God, I'm already doing 14-hour days and I'm earning money, but in order to make more, then does that mean I'm going to have to work harder? Does that mean I'm going to have to increase my hours 16 hours a day? And I want to reassure you that absolutely the principles, the strategies that I'll be sharing with you, the whole mindset, understanding the mindset around money, means that you absolutely do not have to work harder and longer to make more. That is a lie. We've been conditioned to believe it's not true at all. The other thing is that you absolutely don't have to become a hard-nosed, cutthroat business person, business suit. You know, you might harbour some thoughts that in order to make money, you have to become tough, you have to become aggressive or ruthless. And again, all of that is not true. What we're doing with these principles tonight is harnessing spiritual principles and expanding your self-perception. Self-perception is everything. So I'll be talking more about that too. And then the third thing is you will have freedom from fear. I know that many people stay away from setting goals that feel a million miles away because they just don't believe they can achieve them. and they hold themselves small. You know, they justify not setting big income goals, or maybe not even setting goals at all, telling themselves the lie that, you know, it doesn't really matter. I'll be happy with whatever, as long as I'm, you know, I'm fulfilled in my work. And that's just, you know, the perpetual poor student, and you do not want to be in that state. It really isn't serving anyone. And so my goal in this class today is to teach you mindset strategies that will enable you to up-level your income, to start making more money, and to confidently charge what you want without working harder and longer. Now, the caveat to that last bit is, of course, you'll work hard. You will. But it's working from a place of flow, enjoying yourself. You'll be focused, deliberate, undistracted, a lot less overwhelmed. Okay, so I know lots of you on here know me, but I just want to give a quick intro to who I am. So my name is Sinai Floyd. I live in Leeds in the UK with my gorgeous teenage twins, Rebecca and Jacob, my partner Jeremy there, and our fur baby Joey. And for 17 years, I was in corporate sales. I was training, coaching, and mentoring sales professionals and sales teams to increase their results and hit their corporate sales targets, which is no mean feat. If you've ever worked in corporate, you know how they set their targets. So yeah, that was what I was doing for 17 years. And, you know, I did a great job professionally. I was doing well, but personally, my life was a bit of a mess. Now, I'm not going to go into that here, but needless just to say that, you know, I had very little confidence. I never spoke out. My self-esteem was non-existent. But I'm sure many of you can relate to this, that, you know, when you're kind of living a certain way and you're living that way for many years, life has a way of kind of sending you wake-up calls in the form of challenges, setbacks, things that just, you know, in the form of a crisis, really, things that kind of wake you up from that sleepwalking existence. And that was certainly my story. So as a result of that, I experienced life coaching, and that really did kind of set me on a personal development journey that meant in 2014, I resigned from my corporate job. I made the leap and I started my coaching business early 2015. So in essence, my job now is I help coaches sell their coaching. So whatever kind of fancy terms I've adopted over the years and different ways I've kind of described what I do, essentially that's what I do. I help coaches sell their coaching, package up what their unique gifts are, and help them go out there and make money. So alignment is my jam. So I look at the holistic approach, you know, who you're being at your core and how you show up and how that impacts how you show up. So I'm going to just give you a very quick business story in 60 seconds. So when I came on, started my business, I was offline for a good sort of 6 months or so. And then I discovered the whole online thing, this like underworld of online coaching and, you know, Paris photo shoots and all of this kind of thing. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I hired a business coach, and probably about 9 months into starting my business, I really got that kind of alignment, the clarity in my niche. I realized, you know, sales coaching is what I want to do. So I started selling my packages. And as soon as I started doing that and showing up and really understanding, I had a great business coach who's taught me how to kind of operate in groups on Facebook and all of that kind of thing. I started out selling $2,000 packages. Then very quickly I was selling $5,000 packages. So it was just feeling really, really great. Lots of fun. And then up, I started getting a bit crazy, and the money was coming in. I felt amazing. Between sort of October 2015, October 2016, that 12 months was just like, I felt unstoppable. I was hiring coaches between 10k and 15k price tag, like Louisa Joe. I worked with her one-on-one. I invested in Russ Ruffino, and Rebecca T. Dixon, if any of you know who she is, I worked with her one-on-one, 15,000, and then I paid her another 15,000 to fly to Boston to spend 3 days with her and Jack Canfield in a little 3-day business retreat. So honestly, I felt unstoppable. Like, just, you know, I found my thing. This is it. And then during that sort of about, I would say it was probably sort of July time 2016, I sold my very first 15k package. And, you know, that totally blew my mind. So again, everything was exciting. It all felt amazing. And then September 16, I had my biggest ever month. It was just, you know, crazy time. But as every good story, I was flying. But what I didn't realize was I hadn't braced myself for what was to follow. And basically, after my biggest ever month in September, then came October, I had money coming in from the monthly people and the group program that people were paying monthly. So I didn't take too much notice, but I didn't sign a single client in October, nobody. And so I was a bit like, interesting, but it's okay because I've got money coming in. And then November, nothing. And then December, nothing. And then January, nothing. And I had no idea what on earth was going on. I was absolutely petrified. It was just, you know, this really scary time. And what was really going on was that, you know, this was my passion. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I knew I was a good coach. I was making a difference with the clients that I'd worked with, but it was like somebody had just cut the flow. It was just, what the hell is going on? And so during that period of time, those months, like every self-respecting entrepreneur in a time of crisis, I started backpedaling furiously. You know, I couldn't understand what's changed. What have I done wrong? I was constantly tweaking my sales copy, constantly tweaking my prices. You know, one week I felt a bit confident, so I increased my prices. The following week, my confidence was on the floor, so I dropped my prices. It was genuinely terrifying because I honestly didn't want to do anything else, and I just didn't know what had happened, why this was going on. So, you know, it was absolutely heartbreaking. And if you're wondering, this picture actually is a genuine photograph taken during a session where I was kind of in front of a camera. It was right at the heart of that time where I was just absolutely on my knees. And I went for this particular type of coaching where you're filmed. And so this shot is a genuine shot of me having my absolutely just being at heartbreak moment. So 4 months, I'd run out of money. I was living on debt. Credit cards were starting to kind of fund me. Every old story of not being good enough, of being rejected, was just being triggered because no one was coming forward to pay for my services anymore. And I remember it like it was yesterday. There was this one particular Friday night, late January 2017, and I just recall it was about 7 o'clock at night. It was dark. All the curtains were open. All the lights were off. It was like nobody was at home, and I was alone, and I was sobbing in my bed, absolutely heartbroken. And I contacted my coach at the time, and we had a bit of a Voxer session, voice messaging session. And at one point, she actually had to say, "Sanai, can't understand what you're saying," because I was like, you know, the Ron Burgundy, I was in this glass case of emotion, just crying and trying to articulate what I was feeling, and it was just horrendous. But then something happened. As I was crying and talking, I said something that suddenly snapped me out of that just feeling so sorry and heartbreak moment. It was just, you know, when you might recognize that times where you've been absolutely crying and then somebody says something or you think something where you just go, what that felt significant. And you know, instantly my tears stopped, and I was like, what does that mean? And the thing that I said as I was talking to my coach was, I've been here before. I've been here before. And, you know, at the time, I just didn't understand what that meant, because no, I haven't. I've never been in business before. This is my first ever business. I've never been in a situation before where, you know, as a single mother, I've got to make money, and I'm losing money. I'm living on credit. So, you know, I couldn't understand, well, where's that come from? But as I started to reflect on what that meant, I realized then that I'm reliving a pattern. And that for me was just the biggest realization that no, I haven't been in this exact situation before, but the emotion I recognized, the meltdown was familiar, the sense of disempowerment, the fear, the rejection, all of that was somehow familiar. And I realized that somehow I am reliving a pattern. And I have to say, that moment, instantly the tears dried up. I was like, oh, this is huge. And that moment was pivotal. It really started kind of the transformation that followed, in terms of, I then came out of that. It took a while to rebuild. I won't say the shift was immediate. For the rest of 2017, I was studying you know, what this pattern was. I was understanding more about the subconscious. It took me a while really to kind of hit reset, and stop myself going down the rabbit hole, and just reset and start rebuilding. And I probably didn't really understand the full impact of that realization for a full year until the following year. And I woke up in another ditch. This time it was the ditch of debt. So again, a lot of you here know my story in terms of the debt, and how I 23 years in chronic debt, and I reached my enough is enough moment. And it was after that I made a decision that enough was enough, that I was going to put myself into my own experiment. I set myself a goal that I was going to clear my debt, and I was going to sort my shit out around money, and I gave myself 6 months. I didn't know how the hell I was going to do it, but I just knew that enough was enough. I was done with messing around. And so what I did was, then I put myself in a self-imposed experiment. I realized, by the way, that I had 50,000 in consumer debt. And so I call it the 6 months I lived in a petri dish. And what I basically did was I observed every thought, every feeling, every behavior, every response, and every outcome every day. I was like, you know, living in a petri dish, observing myself. And what came out of that experience was this, well, the results were just phenomenal. I was adding to the research from the previous 12 months when I realized, you know, I've been here before. I started seeing patterns in my clients' stories, my client money stories. And as they were implementing things that I'd discovered during that time, and I was kind of sharing it with them, they were having these amazing breakthroughs. And I realized that, you know, we are so powerful. We are phenomenally powerful. And this is kind of what then led me to the next kind of level, next stage in my business and my life, really. So what came of that experience? Well, I broke my 50K debt habit. I broke it within the 6 months. What then came subsequently, I chronicled the whole journey, the journey, I wrote about it. Amazingly, the book went to #1 across 3 categories in Amazon, including psychology and personal finance. Since then, I've been featured and published in various business and money publications, been interviewed on BBC Radio Leeds, and I was interviewed only recently for a Sharing the Vibe podcast. And it birthed the Paid in Full and Prospering Academy, which is a 8-week program that I launched. Many of you have been on it on this call tonight, but it's birthed kind of the next level of the Paid in Full Academy. So it's just been the most incredible trip. So I'm sharing this with you because I want to talk about with you tonight that you really are limitless, that there is no limit to what you can achieve. And, you know, and I'm just really at the cusp of discovering this stuff. And you are more powerful than you ever imagined. And your job really is to raise your self-awareness to really understand your power. And again, this isn't about working harder and longer. This is about understanding what is really going on. So let's look at this. Let's dive straight into the kind of the core of this masterclass. So where are we? I just check my notes. Yeah, the first thing that you really need to understand and accept and embrace is that we have set points in every area of our life. So literally every area. We have set points around health, weight and fitness. We have set points around our relationships, our money, even the amount of happiness that we are willing to let in. We have a set point. I mean, you know, you think about people, you might hear people say, oh my God, it's too good to be true. You know, I'm having a great time, something's going to happen around the corner. And they kind of have this sense that, you know, this happiness can't last. So we have these set points around all these different areas in our life. And we oscillate around these set points. I'm just thinking, oh, the apple denotes that we never fall far from the tree. So if the tree is our set point, and I'll explain these in just a second, we oscillate around the set point. We never stray too far from our set point. And it's really limited by our self-perception. So I'm talking about who we believe ourselves to be and how we self-identify. So one of the easiest examples to illustrate this is dieters. And I'm sure you've all had experience, or you know people who have gone on extreme diets. And, you know, maybe like the shake diet, or they've cut carbs out completely and they go on this diet and they lose weight fairly quickly. Maybe they feel amazing, you know, they promise themselves that just, you know, this is it, this is the new them, but very quickly they put it all back on, and sometimes they even put more than they started with back on. And it's like they did the physical work, they did the hard work of changing the diet and cutting back and doing the exercise, but they didn't do the inner work. They didn't change their set point. So they didn't change their self-identity in relation to their weight self-perception. So when they stray too far from their set point, they sabotage themselves. They start eating again and doing things that just throw them back into the weeds and sabotaging their hard efforts. And of course, lottery winners, I'm just wondering if, you've heard of maybe the curse of the lottery. Lottery winners, there are so many stories of big winners who wind up worse off within 2 years even. You know, they get divorced, they wind up with no friends, no job, no money left. Their set point, again, was breached too quickly, and they hadn't done the inner work, and therefore their subconscious brought everything back to set point. So yeah, the set point was breached. So, and again, you heard in my intro, my income stopped suddenly, literally overnight, because I exceeded my own set point. And because I didn't know what I didn't know, I almost walked away from my passion, my business, because I just didn't know this stuff. And you know, because I know this is my purpose, I just clung to my business like, you know, it was driftwood. And I just basically waited until the set point resumed to its level state of normal again, and then I could begin to grow, but grow from a place of awareness. Okay, so how do we get this set point? What defines it? And more importantly, what can we do to change it? So the set point is determined by subconscious conditioning. So we're talking programmed, habitual thoughts, chronic beliefs and feelings that drive our behavior. Now, let me just sort of say that if you think about your conscious mind, you've got a conscious mind, your subconscious mind. Sort of the easiest way to explain it, you've probably heard the iceberg analogy. What you see above the water is only 5 to 10% of the actual iceberg. The 95% is submerged beneath the water. And that's pretty much how your mind is set. You've got your 5-10% conscious mind, and then 90% is subconscious. But it's the 90 to 95% that are driving your thoughts, your behaviors, your actions, and your responses. So, your subconscious, for the most part, is driving the bus, baby. It's controlling your behaviors, how you feel, and ultimately your results. Now, this is really amazing. You've got to think this is amazing because, as this slide says, it frees you up. You don't have to think about everything you do. You don't have to concentrate on making your skin cells replicate or your hair and nails grow. Your subconscious is taking care of all of that. You also don't have to think much about what you're doing, such as eating. That's habitual. You learn how to eat and now you just do it by habit. Showering, brushing your teeth, getting dressed, cleaning, driving the car, all of that gets done without you concentrating because they are learned behaviors. They are now habitual patterns of behavior that you've learned. They've impressed upon your subconscious. So you can literally go through a whole day. If you were just to go through a whole day, doing everything that you've always done, you can literally go through a day's unconscious, like sleepwalking through your day. And I know for many, many people, not people like you who are into personal development, who are raising self-awareness on a daily basis, you're into your growth and evolution, not you, but there are people out there, and this was me before I started my personal development journey, sleepwalking. I can see it so clearly now, looking back. So driving the car is a great example and a great analogy for how this works because, we learn to do this and there are so many processes and details that as we're learning to drive a car, we need to concentrate. I mean, when you learn to drive a car, it is complicated and potentially life-threatening. So there's nothing that will keep you more awake than, learning to drive a car. If we make a mistake, it's potentially dangerous to our life and to the life of somebody else on the road. We need to know what pedals to press, what the gear stick is all about, the mirrors, everything. There's so much to concentrate on. So we are aware and awake whilst learning to drive. And as we're learning, we're going from an identity of being a non-driver to a learner driver. Then we get more practiced. We might then pass our test. We get more comfortable, more familiar, more confident, and we develop a new identity as a car driver. And what we're doing is we're committing the driving process to our memory and our subconscious mind. So we can drive without thinking about it. There's no thought required. Your subconscious is driving the car. Now we know this because whilst driving the car, we can eat, we can sing, we can talk to the passenger, we can let our thoughts wander. And, have you ever had an experience of arriving at somewhere at your destination and then suddenly realizing that you don't remember the journey? We all do that, especially if it's, the same journey every day to drop the kids off at school or, going to work. So we literally, it becomes a part of who we are. It's part of our being, it's habitual, and it's programmed in. So how is this relevant to money and your ability to make money? Well, I love the learning to drive analogy because it's easy to understand. And if you think about it, when you arrive on this planet, you have no experience of money. You are a non-driver when it comes to money. But then you get into the driving seat of money in your childhood. And this is where you begin to learn about money. And we learn from our principal caretakers, our parents, our grandparents, guardians, school, church, all of those people. But what happens is between the age of 0 and 7, our subconscious is open. It's like a sponge. It's simply recording everything that we are perceiving, what we're hearing, what we're seeing with our senses. It's recording. That's all it's doing. And the reason it's simply recording is we're too young to interpret consciously. So the subconscious recording of information is literal. So, for example, if you are a little one, a 3 or 4 year old, and you knock over a glass of milk, for example, and your mum might say, "Oh, you clumsy clot, you're so clumsy, you knocked over the milk, I'll clean it up, I've got to clean it up now." Now, to that child who has no ability to consciously interpret what she's hearing, she's going to go, "Oh, embed, recording, I'm a clumsy clot." So that becomes part of her habitual programming, her conditioning. She then goes through life and her subconscious is creating the clumsy clot identity. So she'll go through life proving that she's clumsy, walking around with this story that she's clumsy because it landed when she was pre-7. It was just being recorded in there. What also is going on at that age is our brainwave frequency is in what's called theta state, which is completely open. It's very suggestive. It's the state that we're in when we're undergoing hypnosis. Theta state is also the state that our brain is in just as we're waking up and just as we're falling asleep. So it's the most suggestive state. So it's a great time for you to do your visualizations or your affirmations because your subconscious is at its most suggestive, and whatever goes in will be programmed and will direct your behaviors and your feelings. So from 0 to 7, our brain is in this theta state. And so what happens during those 7 years is that our blueprint is created. That's what kind of determines much of our set points. So, curious question for you all to think about as you finish off this masterclass is, what did you hear about money when you were a child before you had that ability to consciously interpret what you were hearing? Because now, should I say, after 7, when you're about 9 or 10, you spill that milk, mum says, "Oh, you clumsy clot." As a 9 or 10-year-old, you're going to think, "Oh, mum's annoyed with me because I've spilt the milk." You're not going to think, "Oh, I'm clumsy." You might just, you'll be able to interpret what you're experiencing rather than taking it in as a recording. So, prosperity or scarcity consciousness. It's well known, it's proven that wealthy people tend to produce children who will go on to be wealthy because that is the blueprint that they've been raised within. Families in poverty, caught in the benefits trap, struggling financially, again, they will tend to produce children who grow up in a situation that is a match to their upbringing, because that's what they're familiar and comfortable with. And even if it's not comfortable to be in poverty and struggling, it's what you know. So what is actually happening? So yes, we have these blueprints, we have this, these set points, but how is it actually determining your results? So the first thing I want to say is there are two ways. There's more, but just the two I want to focus on is what's actually happening is firstly, your mind is working to create congruence. It wants coherence between the inner and the outer. So that's the first thing I'm going to cover. And then the second thing is your subconscious is designed to keep you alive. So our subconscious is working constantly to keep us alive. So that's the second reason why our set points affect us. So let's look at that first one. The mind is working to create congruence, to create coherence. What that means is basically the mind is continuously working to create a congruent state, a coherence between the images in your mind and your experiences. So if you've been raised in a scarcity and lack environment, or you've had the messages imprinted, you know, we're not made of money, who do you think you are wanting something expensive, and you get all these messages as you're growing up, then that's the images that are created in your mind. So if you're looking at an experience that is a wealth experience, a prosperity experience, and it doesn't match the images in your mind, then your mind is going to work harder to and sabotage you, because it wants to create that coherence. It wants to relieve structural tension. Now, structural tension is created in the brain, again, when the inner world is not a match to the outer experience. So this is why it's really important that when you set an intention, when you set a goal, you've got to hold tight to the vision of the goal. Because if you lose sight of the vision, then that structural tension will mean your brain will pull you back to what's comfortable, what is, you know, the old image. So if you've got a big vision for yourself, you've got to, you know, create enough images around it, to almost like, you know, the vision boards, that's why they work, affirmations, that's why they're powerful, but hold tight to the vision, so the structural tension will adjust to the inner world rather than creating the outer world to match that old story. So I hope that bit made sense. The second part, why this happens, is the subconscious wants to keep us alive. So breaking away from that normal, so the you know, what's comfortable, what you've been raised in, your set point, what that means is perceived threat. So on a subconscious level, if you're going to break away from what you were raised amongst, you run the risk of abandonment, rejection, and exile. So, you know, you think about if you were raised in a family where there was not a lot of money, and then you go off and you want to start making money on a very deep subconscious level, you may believe that you're going to risk being abandoned by your family, rejected, exiled, because you're breaking away from what you know, what's normal, what's comfortable. So your primitive hindbrain, that lizardy brain of yours, the most reptilian brain, to that brain, rejection and exile means certain death. Because you think about it, to our primitive hindbrain, it means being rejected from our clan and our tribe. And, you know, when we were living in caves or roaming the savannah, that meant certain death. So it's our primitive conditioning. This stuff goes really deep. And for many of us, it's not always that submerged. You know, this desire to not break away from the norm is not necessarily always submerged, because, you know, many of us consciously fear making more money than our peers and our families. You know, we're very aware of that. We have stories running in our minds like, you know, what will my family think of me? They might think I'm stuck up, or, you know, they might think, oh, start seeing me as the bank and I'll have to sub and pay for everything. And, you know, you don't want to do that either. So we also hear stories that keep us stuck. So growing up, things that we may hear that embed as subconscious messaging can also become a part of our belief system. So things like rich people are cheats, or con artists, or people like us don't mix with people, you know, rich people. So all of these things, if you've got that going on within your system, then you're not going to actively go out there and make a lot of money. You're going to try, but if that's under the surface, it's going to keep pulling you back. So you don't want to be associated with cheats or con artists, you know, or you don't want to be sort of abandoned by your family. So I remember actually reading the book Millionaire Mindset, and T. Harv Eker, Millionaire Mind Guy, he was recalling a story about as he started to grow wealthy, he bought himself a top-of-the-range Jaguar. And he recalls being absolutely stunned and, of course, really disappointed at the attitude of people on the road as he was driving this beautiful high-end Jaguar. He said other drivers cut him up, you know, they were impolite, giving dirty looks. And he said that one time a group of guys threw empty beer cans at his car. And he said, compare that to before he was, before he made any money and he was kind of pootling about in this beaten up car. And he said everyone was generous. They let him go before, they completely different attitude, which is scary really, because, what is that saying about our collective attitude towards people with money? It's just not serving us. So if you do harbor any negative attitudes about wealthy people, about rich folks, then you're going to subconsciously stay where you are. You can't risk becoming one of those people that you've got these negative stories about. So it begins in childhood. So using our car driver analogy again. So as I've said, from 0 to 7, the subconscious is recording. Our brainwaves is below the level of consciousness at the theta state. But then what happens from 7 is that we then start to learn by repetition. So repetition becomes the main way that we learn languages. As we're going to school, we learn how to do maths and spelling. We learn how to drive a car. All of that is conscious learning through repetition. And we also have the ability, as we get older into our teens, to interpret the meanings of things. So we're less kind of suggestible. Okay, so what happens then is as we go into our 20s, we get jobs for the most part. That's the time that we start to earn money. And this is where we start climbing this income ladder. And we tend to do it gradually. So what happens is, as we get that first job, every step we take, let me just move this, I can't see what I'm doing. Every step that we take, we expand our self-perception and our confidence and our earning capacity at each level. So it allows us to expand to each level. And as the level embeds, we grow. And so, I think about, when I was 22, I graduated. I got my first stopgap job in the financial services. It ended up being my 17-year stopgap. But I got my first job as a customer service advisor. Had my first salary, my annual salary, and then within 12 months, I stepped up. Took a bit of growth. It was uncomfortable doing this new job, learning how to do these processes. It felt weird, but then I got used to it. I grew in confidence. Then I was ready for the next level. So it's the natural progression. And so we grow. There's a period of discomfort whilst we're learning how to do this new job. We're learning and growing in confidence. We're learning how to speak to our customers. And then things level out and we hit a plateau. It's really comfortable. We can do our eyes, do our jobs with our eyes shut. Everything's good. And then we decide, right, we're ready for the next level of growth. So we get a promotion. We're back in discomfort. We grow, we learn, we get comfortable, we level out, we hit the plateau, we get comfortable, we can start doing that job with our eyes shut, and it's repeat. So it's really tidy. You can see yourself just climbing the income ladder really tidily. And, maybe you stayed around one income level for years, or maybe you increase suddenly with a really big promotion. So these are all scenarios where you can begin to kind of recognize what patterns are emerging. So, if you were somebody who did get a really big promotion, if that actually matched your set point, you probably settled really quickly. However, if it didn't and it actually breached your set point, what could have happened quite realistically is that you may have started increasing your spending. You perhaps buy the bigger house, so you've got a bigger mortgage to pay. So actually your disposable income didn't increase with your salary increase, or you're spending more, earning more, and yet still managing to increase your debt. So all of those kind of things, they are signs of your salary breaching your financial set point too quickly. So, as you look at this, you can begin to see patterns emerging. Okay, so then what happens? You start your online business, or you go into business for yourself. Oh my God, it is so freaking exciting. Suddenly you see other people who are in business, these other entrepreneurs, they're celebrating, they're selling, 6 or 7 figure possibilities. It's all so shiny. And and it's also promising, and you're thinking, oh my God, you realize it's actually limitless. It's limitless. You get introduced to The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. You get introduced to, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And all of this stuff makes, the possibilities, the financial wealth, it makes it really limitless and seems so immediate and so very easy. But what it also does, of course, is it's also extremely confronting, because you're brought face to face with questions over your self-worth. And probably these things we've never, ever had to confront before when we're in corporate. So these kind of things really can throw us into the weeds. So we get triggered as we start to dig deep. We start questioning our value, our self-worth, and this is where old stories start emerging that were really never a part of our consciousness before we started to come into business. So this is where we're at. This is where it starts getting really critical to be aware of this stuff, so that unlike what happened to me, you wind up plummeting down that roller coaster, not knowing why, and thinking, there's an expiration period on this gig, I need to get back in my 9 to 5. Without this information, that's the very, very real risk. That was what almost happened to me. So let me just, why not? So now that you know about set points, and you know that they affect what road you take in terms of your behavioral patterns, I want to just talk about another way that your set points affect the results you take. Because you might be thinking, well, surely in spite of these set points, if I work harder, then I'll make more money. That stands to reason. And yes, that could be true. You could enjoy an increase temporarily, but this is where your subconscious will bring you back to base. Remember the dieters and the lottery winners, and as I've said, my story. So knowing that your subconscious is really powerful. What we also need to take into consideration is that there are universal laws at play. Hermetic laws, the law of attraction, the law of mentality, the law of vibration. Basically, it's understanding that everything is vibration. You are a vibrating part of a vibrating whole. And so when everything is based in vibration, and the law of attraction states that like vibration attracts like vibration. So what we all have is a signature vibrational frequency. And I want you to see your set point as a signature vibrational frequency. And for the most part, people, before you kind of came into your business and started doing all this deep dive work, and for the most part, for the people that are kind of just going through their day to day, not very self-aware, their signature vibrational frequency will never change. Unless they do this work, it will never change, because as they're vibrating at their specific frequency, at their signature frequency, at the level of thoughts and beliefs and feelings, they're going to attract exact things that are a match to their beliefs, feelings, thoughts, and they're going to attract everything that is a match to that. So as they attract everything that is a match, then they confirm, they affirm, they reaffirm those thoughts, beliefs, and feelings. So it's like they're in this loop. It just matches, confirms, and affirms every day. So how would you ever change unless you have this kind of self-awareness? So the biggest piece of work that any of us has to do is adjusting our signature vibrational frequency. And I'm talking about your state of being, not your state of doing. So, for example, if you're self-identifying as somebody who is confident, somebody who is an empowered service provider, service-based entrepreneur, a coach, whatever, if you're vibrating at somebody who knows their worth and their value in the world, then guess what? You're going to attract everything that is a match to that frequency. You attract people who have confidence in you. You attract people who value you and your work, who take you seriously because you're taking yourself seriously. They believe that you can help them because you believe you can help them. So it all comes from you. You are a mirror, and what you focus on becomes your point of attraction. So, you know, when you show up differently, because you're resonating at a higher frequency, it is imperceptible to your audience or your prospect on a discovery call, but they're feeling it. They know it. There's something there going on. Okay, so I just added this extra slide recently because somebody else who looks within a petri dish is a particular hero of mine called Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton. He's the author of a book I recommend called The Biology of Belief. And Bruce Lipton was a biologist, or is a biologist, a stem cell biologist, but he's completely transforming kind of the world of science, marrying biology, quantum physics, and the spiritual dimension. And what he did was, as he was studying stem cells, and he said his stem cells are his greatest teachers, because he was studying stem cells, and if you're not aware, stem cells are basically an embryonic cell. It's like it's a blank cell, and you can use a stem cell to grow whatever type of cell you need. But Bruce Lipton one day took one single stem cell and he put it in a petri dish in a culture medium, and it basically replicated. So it replicated, he left it over 10 hours, and this stem cell replicated until there were 30,000 genetically identical stem cells from this one embryonic cell, 30,000 genetically identical cells. And what he did with those was he split them up, and he put each clump of genetically identical cells into different culture mediums. And he watched what happened. And basically, every clump of genetically identical stem cells, they changed depending on the medium they were in, depending on the culture medium. And so he recognized that these cells, the genetics are driven not by DNA as everyone, believes, but by the environment. So we have 50 trillion cells as part of our physical system, and if our environment affects us on such a cellular level. So the culture medium that cells are in is, of course, our blood. And so he called the brain is the chemist, and the blood is the culture medium. So if the brain is the chemist, we can adjust, the brain will adjust the chemicals depending on what we're focusing on. So he said, if you look at a face you love, the face of your spouse, the face of your child, and you feel love, what your brain, the chemist, is going to do is going to create a chemical cocktail and release them into your blood. These are all chemicals of love: endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin. These chemicals, they shift your whole state of being at a cellular level. So you feel more loved, you feel more loving, you feel unstoppable. You know what it's like, that first flush of love where you feel like you can fly. You feel like you can take on the world. You walk into a job that you hated 2 days ago because you're in love. You love the job. You can do anything. You feel amazing. And all of that is this chemical response in your physiology. So it changes you on a cellular level, and that's just from focusing on love. Equally, you focus on fear. Again, you look at your bank statements, you look at an empty coaching diary, you look at your credit card debt. Your brain is noticing this is what we're focusing on. Oh my God, the brain is the chemist. It's going to produce all these chemicals and flood your system with stress hormones like cortisol. It's going to put you in a fight or flight state. What that does is it shuts off blood flow to the front of your brain, which is, there for logic and reasoning and creativity. You lose you feel less energy, you feel tense, your stomach contracts. So, whatever you're focused on has this extreme physiological chemical response that changes you on a cellular level. So I just wanted to add that point as being just something so powerful to know that whatever you're focused on not only just changes you the way you think, but it changes everything at a deeply cellular level. And it's no surprise, is it, that when we're stressed, it makes us ill. People get sick, severely sick, when they are undergoing prolonged periods of stress. Alrighty, so now you want to know the most important part of this presentation. Now that you know you have these set points, you want to know, how do you increase your set point? So I just want to say, remember that your set point is your self-identity. It's how you identify yourself, your self-perception. So again, this isn't about taking action as in working longer hours, working harder. It's actually about changing your beingness, so who you're being at your core. So I have 5 strategies that I want to take you through, mindset strategies. Again, these will be in the worksheet, in the workbook, but just to kind of share them with you now, the strategies are, I think I've got 5. There are so many that I can share with you, but I've got sort of 5 ones that are my favorites. So get clear on what you want and why you want it. So I've got a 7 levels deep exercise. Let me just grab a drink. We're going to talk about visualization, taking your visualizations to the next level, so you're literally flooding your consciousness. We're going to be talking about rewriting your stories, so taking out those old disempowering beliefs, replacing them with new empowering stories. I'm going to take you through the values exercise. So this is about understanding, well, if your net worth equals your self-worth, which it does, and you want to raise your rates, you've got to work on your self-value to be able to confidently go out there and charge what it is you want to charge and attract the right people. So you've got to have the self-value to match. So I'll share an exercise with you on how to do that. And then we're going to look at, just briefly then, controlling what you can control and releasing what you can't. As I said, you are a vibrating part of a vibrating whole. So you're not alone. You don't have to do this all by yourself. There is forces around you that as you vibrate at these high levels, that you will be when you do these exercises, you will gather momentum and forces that are here to support you. Okay. So some of you may be thinking, well, hang on a minute. What's all this about, instant manifesting? Surely, the universe is powerful. It has my back. I can manifest instantly. And I'm not taking that away. You absolutely can instantly manifest. You focus on what you want. The secret makes you believe that you can instantly manifest, and you can. However, you were put on this planet not to just instantly get what you want. We're here on a journey. This journey is about growth and expansion. And as you grow and expand, so do your desires. Have you noticed, as you grow and expand, your desires, your dreams, they get bigger. Your income desires grow. You get stronger in what you want. You learn to ask for more. So we're constantly on a journey of growth and expansion. What it also means is, yes, you can manifest instantly, but what you're doing is you're doing the inner work to literally be ready to receive and keep it. So it's like the lottery winners all over again. They instantly manifested millions as a big win, but they couldn't keep it because they hadn't done the inner work. Exactly, and I think about my debt story. If somebody, when I made that decision and set that goal that I'm going to be, 50K, I'm 50K in debt, I'm going to be debt free in 6 months. If somebody had come to me then and said, here's a check for 50,000, you've instantly manifested, you can pay off your debt. Oh my God, I'd, be crazy happy. I would have been celebrating, paying off my debt immediately. But guess what would have happened? Within a couple of months, straight back into debt, because it was who I identified as, my identity, some chronic belief around money and debt. I hadn't cleared the shame. Shame was a huge part that was perpetuating debt for me. Without doing that work, I'd be straight back into debt within a year, wondering what the hell happened. So you've got to expand and grow in order to get what you want and keep it. And also experience profound, let's not forget, experience profound levels of joy and peace of mind and confidence. So, yeah, remember the lottery winners. So, yes, you can instantly manifest. Of course you can. But let's work on growth, expansion, and all that good stuff so you get what you want and you get to keep it. Okay, so how are we doing for time? So the first exercise is, wow, okay, so we're at top of the hour, but I'm going to keep going. So the first thing is you've got to get clarity on exactly what you want, because that engages the brain. So you know what it's like. You switch on your reticular activating system, which acts like an antenna, the forefront of your brain, to seek out the resources, the people, the conversations, everything that is a match to your goal, to what you're focused on. But you've got to, if you don't just wish for more money, get really specific on how much. It's got to be clear, it's got to be measurable. And again, that switches on those parts of your brain that are solution orientated and gets you excited. It's got to be challenging. It's got to be worth the inner work. And, there is work to be done here, inner work. I'm not talking about sitting at your laptop for hours. And this inner work, it can feel really confronting. It's emotional stuff. And there are quite a few of you on this call who are working with me, or you've been in my programs. You know what I'm talking about. The inner work is about releasing old stories that you're attached to. It's about raising beliefs that you didn't even know you had, that have been holding you back. It's about forgiving. It's about releasing and processing. So no, it's not easy. It's confronting. It's emotional, but it's so worth it. It is so worth it. It will change your life for the better. So clarity on what you want, and then doing the 7 levels deep exercise, which engages the heart. So what this is, now you can do it on your own with your journal, or best to partner with somebody. And this is the instruction. Basically, this is an exercise that I learned from studying The Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Grazioni. And when I took myself through this exercise for the first time, I was blown away by what came up. So I really encourage you to do this. I now do it with every goal I set myself. And so basically what you do is the 7 levels deep exercise is about asking the same question essentially 7 times. But each time you ask the question, it's based on the last answer given. So for example, it begins with, the 7 levels deep exercise is about getting to the real why. Should add that. What's the 7 levels deep exercise? It's about helping you connect to the deeper why. You've got to know your why, because when things get tough, when you feel like quitting, when you feel like you just had enough, when you can connect to your powerful why, the real why, you get back on your horse with full energy. So for example, if you've got a 10K goal, I want to make 10,000 per month. your partner would say the 7 levels deep exercise begins with, okay, so why do you want to make 10,000 per month? And you get the answer. So I've got an example here. Because I want to be able to relax. I don't want to have to worry about money. Second time, why is it important for you to be able to relax and not worry about money? Because there's so many things I want to do, and making 10K would give me more freedom to say yes to those things. Okay, why do you want more freedom to say yes to the many things you want to do? So you get the picture. Do it 7 times, not 5, not 6, not 9, 7 times. It just works. We don't know why, it just does. But what you're doing is you're taking your head answers and slowly but surely dropping into the heart answer. And, you know, when I think about when I took myself through my process, and I asked myself, why do I want to create, where is it now? I've got it here. When I did this around my desire to create wealth from my business and my property portfolio, I was amazed that my deepest why was around being taken seriously. So, you know, whenever I think, and it could come from, you know, as a child, I was the youngest. My brother loved me and really looked after me all the time, my older brother. And then I've got a story of betrayal. So a lot of my relationships ended in betrayal, being cheated on in relationships. And so that really was a match to me not being taken seriously and not taking myself seriously and kind of putting up with this stuff. So when I connected to that, it was like, oh my God, it's about being taken seriously. And so when I think about procrastinating or wandering off and, doing something different, or getting overwhelmed or wandering off my path, all I need to do is like, Sanai, are you taking yourself seriously with this? And I'm straight back on my horse, because I know that's really a deep level why for me. All right, so the second one is visualization. Let me just check in the chat, because I know. How you all doing? Byron Katie. Oh, Byron Katie does the same exercise. I love Byron Katie. So thank you for that, Patsy. Brilliant. Okay, so the second thing, and I often say this is my favorite thing to do, and I'm going to whiz through, but it is on your worksheet, but visualization. Now, I'm not just talking about kind of sitting quietly and thinking about your goal. I'm talking about complete immersion. So this is about, spending time going to that outcome on a daily basis. So, the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between real or imagined. So this is a really important kind of thing to understand, that the subconscious mind doesn't know. And we know this because we've got proof from, they do lots of tests on sports people who are visualizing the ski run, and their muscles are firing off in exactly the same way as though if they were actually on the ski run, rather than just imagining it. So physiologically, their body's on the ski run, because their subconscious can't tell that it's just an imagination. Same with a nightmare. What happens in a nightmare? You are, your whole body is having this physiological response to a nightmare. Your hands sweat. You go, the blood rushes from your face. You're panting. Why? It's just a thought you're having. So your subconscious believes it's really real, doesn't know the difference. And so when you visualize and you immerse yourself, like cellular level immersion, be there, feel the smile on your face, feel the sun, imagine how you'd feel when you see that money in your account, whatever it is that is the end result, not the steps along the way, but it is done. Go to that place, go to the place that proves it is done, and sit in it and feel it with every fiber of your being. What you are doing is you are shifting your state on a cellular level. So if you think about your set point, if every day you visualize, immerse yourself, shift on a cellular level, what you're doing is you're expanding your set point. Your subconscious is growing, because what's happening in the visualization is you're creating a memory. Every day you're imprinting a memory as though it's already happened. And so it's changing your state of being, because your state of being just thinks, this has already happened, this is my new normal. So you're creating a memory of the imagined event, which changes your signature vibrational frequency. So every day for 6 months, I imagine being paid in full, not debt-free, because debt was loaded with shame, and that's, you know, a bad word for me then. So I had to create a state that didn't have the word debt in it, so it was paid in full, and I felt it with every fiber of my being. And very, very quickly I became somebody who does not do debt, just dissipated. All right, rewriting your stories then, guys. This is the third exercise. This is about, and this is just for you, you're going to be brutally honest. You're not going to hold back. You are just going to write and write and write and write on the worksheet that I've got for you, or in your journal. What fears and beliefs do you have around money, around wealthy people, around your ability to create and keep wealth? All of your limiting beliefs. What's stopping you from being wealthy? What's holding you back from financial independence? What do you believe about yourself and your ability to make money? Be brutally honest. Doesn't matter what comes up. This is just for you, but it's only truly effective if you dig deep and get honest with yourself. You know, what resistance starts to come up when you're doing your affirmations? You know, if you think, I am, you know, 10K a month coach, and then you've got this, yeah, right, sarcastic voice coming in. You've got to listen to that and think, that's there for a reason. It doesn't believe me, so I'm going to have to write out why not. What is stopping me? What's the blueprint, my set point all about? So as you write out all of these fears, these beliefs, these stories that you've got, what you want to do then is write them out, and then with each one, just write the exact opposite. Now you might think that's a bit silly. Is it really as simple as that? Kind of. You just write the opposite. So, you know, might be, you know, I'm not deserving of making this kind of money, or whatever. You write the exact opposite. I am deserving of earning this money because, and you write your statement, and initially that will feel like a lie, or you think it's another affirmation, it won't work. But that's where you don't stop there. You write out the more empowering story, the one you wish you believed, because that's the one that will serve you. And then what you're going to do is, then the work involved here is, you're then going to go out there and actively seek evidence and references to support that new reality. Because what you will find is, it's a focus thing. When you're focused on, if your brain's like Google, you type in something into Google search engine, it will bring back all the evidence, all the reference, all the, you know, everything that is a match to what you've just Googled. Your focus is the same. You focus on, you know, I'm not good enough to make that kind of money, or I'm, you know, whatever. And your brain will go, yep, you're right. Because remember that time, you know, at high school when you flunked that exam? Yeah, you're not good enough. Remember that time you asked that boy out and he said, no, yeah, see, you're not good enough. And so your brain will just produce all the files that back up that limiting belief, simply because you're focused on it. So when you switch your focus and spend some time actively seeking evidence and references to back up the new story, you will find more and more, because your brain's then switched on. And so you do that. Not just one and done. It's never one and done, this work. We do it all the time. I'm still doing it. I do it every day. Just, you know, it's never one and done. But make sure that this is the inner work that you're doing, and you're actively triggering your filing cabinet that's entitled Empowering Stories. Okay, so number 4, the values exercise. This is where you're going to increase your self-worth. And as you increase your self-worth and you increase your self-value, you raise your signature vibrational frequency to a higher level. So you're vibrating at a higher self-worth and a higher self-value. And as you do that, you attract more money, you attract those clients who are going to pay you that higher amount. And the I can't afford you people start to fall away. Because the I can't afford you people, they are just a match to you not valuing yourself, because they can't see your value. So This particular exercise, again, not one and done. What I would ask you to do is do this every evening for at least 30 days. Every night before you go to bed, you get your journal and you sit and you write out 10 ways that you added value, or that you were of value, or you were valuable that day. So 10 ways. So it could be simply things like, today I was valuable because I made a fabulous dinner for my family and I nourished them, and I take care of my family, and so I am valued. I added value today because I rang my mum and we had a great chat and I made her laugh. I added value today with my client call. I felt valuable today because I went and got my nails done, I got my hair done. I added value today because I smiled at a stranger and he looked really glum before I smiled at him, and then I made his day because he beamed afterwards. So just anything and everything. And what you're doing, if you do that every evening, you're raising your value. You're starting to recognize that you have this level of value. What you're also doing is, obviously, before you fall asleep, to focus on your value. What a lovely thing to be focusing on as you drift off to sleep. But also you're training your brain. You're training your brain to begin to seek out during the day, because you've got this exercise set by me to do every evening. You're going to then start seeking out, must remember that for my journal tonight, or I added value just then, must remember that for my journal. You actively start training your brain to seek out where you're adding value. So just value becomes your new normal. All right, so that's the exercise of raising your self-worth. Alrighty, last exercise then. Okay, so controlling what you can control and releasing what you can't. So this is about understanding that you have your list of jobs. You have a list that things that you can do and that you need to do in order to make money. So a list of things that you can control might include, in order to make money, I need to have clarity. I need to know my niche and my ideal client. I need to go out and craft offers and price them up. I need to be getting my online presence up and running, websites, social media banners, have them all clear and aligned. I need to be showing up every day, doing live streams, posting. I need to go networking. I need to make some phone calls. I need to be live streaming, sharing my message with the world, engaging, connecting. So these are all real physical things that you need to be doing. Also, your job is to do your daily mindset work, your daily visualizations, being consciously aware of your thoughts, doing your evening journaling of where you've added value, meditating, reading, studying books, taking courses on marketing, businesses, customer service, sales, all of those things. You can also be looking at hiring a coach, hiring a mentor, taking breaks, eating healthily, sleeping, relaxing, laughing. All of those things are things that you can do in order to make money. Okay? So what's the universe's job? Ask the universe for answers. Don't sit there and affirm, I'm so stuck, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm struggling. When you just come out with all that crap, it's like embedded commands that keep you stuck and struggling and all of that crap. So instead, you just ask the universe for clarity, ask the universe for answers, and then, let me see, be observant. So seek out the divine downloads. Notice when you have these inspired ideas, be observant of them. Notice perfect timing. When you're observant and you start to notice these things and celebrate them, you're actually inviting more in. The universe's job is to ensure that the right people at the right time are seeing your stuff, your posts. So just know that, trust it. It's not your job to put stuff in front of people and control all of that. Your job is to show up and share. The universe will line up the right people at the right price at the right time. And also, the resources, the circumstances, the opportunities, they'll all be presented to you as long as you're doing your bit and you're enjoying yourself and you're doing your mindset work. But just notice when opportunities show up, when possibilities, resources, all of that, you've got to be aware. You've got to have your eyes open. And so kind of what I want to do is almost end this on this. I'm reminded of a joke about, you know, keeping your eyes open. I'm reminded of a joke about a preacher who fell in the ocean and he couldn't swim. And when a boat came by and the captain of the boat yelled, "Do you need any help, sir?" And this preacher calmly said, "No, God will save me." And a little later, another little boat came by with a fisherman on it, and the fisherman shouted, hey, do you need some help?" And the preacher replied again, "No, God will save me." And then a sea rescue helicopter arrived and sent down a rope ladder, and the preacher shouted up, "It's okay, I'm good, God will save me." And eventually the preacher drowned and he went to heaven. And the preacher asked God, "Why didn't you save me?" And God replied, "Fool, I sent 2 boats and a rescue chopper." So, so that's what I'm talking about. You've got to be observant. Let it in. It's everywhere. You know, Catherine Ponder, to quote Catherine Ponder, "There's gold dust in the air," and it's your job to notice it and be observant and let it in. So start looking for the signs from the universe and celebrate them. They're all signs that you're on your way. And when you're vibrating, and for a lot of you who are on my program Paid in Full, you'll understand that as you start to see things that are matched to your high vibration, the words that come out of your mouth will be, "I did that. I did that," because it's a sign you're expanding, you're growing. So essentially, just to wrap this up, you've got to feel good. You've got to have fun. You've got to love the bones of yourself. Nobody will do that for you. You've got to do it for yourself first. And you've got to feel good every day. So you're doing your visualization. The whole point of that is just to feel good. Why would you not go there when it makes you feel that good? So feel good first, and then the money will come. So thank you so much, guys. Sorry about the moment of boobs with the slides. I was just getting so carried away. So what questions do you have, if any? Let me just check in the chat. Where's my chat button? Here it is. Did you enjoy that? Change the slide, Sophia. Amazing. Thank you. Thanks from Vipa, Lena. Thank you, guys. You can unmute if you have any questions, if you're happy to share. Otherwise, I shall wrap this up. Let's have a look. Patsy, you're welcome. Thank you, Eve. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining. Any questions? Yvonne, amazing. Thank you, Yvonne. So glad you made it. Thank you, Anya. All right, guys. So I'm going to wrap it up. Do it again. Do it again, Diosa. Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Lena. Thank you, Diosa. Great. All right, cool. Let me just, so if you want to connect, sending love from Montreal, love from Leeds to you, Lena. So what questions, if you've got questions, you can connect with me on Facebook. You could drop me an email at sanayfloyd@beboldcoaching.co.uk, and there's my website, sanayfloyd.com. So thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Simona. So great to see the blueprint in one place. Yes, absolutely.